Jake Morrison adjusted his tie as he walked into the biggest room he had ever seen. The walls curved up so high he could barely see the ceiling. Strange creatures filled thousands of seats, all staring down at him. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. A few looked like walking trees, while others seemed to be made of crystal or metal. He was the first human to ever stand in the Galactic Council chambers. Earth had been trying to join this group for 3 years. Today was supposed to be their big chance. Jake sat down at a small table in the center of the room. His chair looked tiny compared to the massive seats around him. A glass of water waited for him, but his hands were too sweaty to pick it up. A loud voice filled the room. Jake looked up to see a creature that looked like a walking diamond. It was 20 feet tall and sparkled under the bright lights. "I am Chairman Vextar," the diamond creature said. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. "We are here to discuss the human problem." Jake frowned. Problem? This was supposed to be about joining the council, not solving problems. "Human Ambassador Morrison," Chairman Vexatar continued, "your species has been expanding through the outer rim for 2 years. We have received many disturbing reports." A huge screen appeared in the air above Jake's head. Pictures began to show on it. Jake saw planets he recognized: New Dallas, Terra Verde, Hope's Landing, all human colonies he had visited during his inspection tours. These worlds were full of life before humans arrived, Chairman Vextar said. The pictures showed forests, oceans, and cities belonging to alien species. Now look at them. The pictures changed. The same worlds now looked completely different. Clean human cities replaced the alien ones. Neat farms covered areas that used to be wild forests. Everything looked organized and efficient. "Where are the native species?" asked a creature that looked like a giant snake with arms. "We count 43 different intelligent species that lived on these worlds. Now we find none." Jake shifted in his seat. He was starting to understand why they called this a problem. "Explain this," Chairman Vextar demanded. "What happened to all these species?" Jake stood up and cleared his throat. The room became completely quiet. Thousands of alien eyes focused on him. "Well," Jake said, "we cleared them out." A sound like thunder rolled through the chamber. Jake realized it was the aliens gasping. "You cleared them out?" Chairman Vexistar's voice rose higher. "What does this mean?" Jake shrugged. "Standard procedure. When we set up a new colony, we have to deal with pests first, you know? Things that eat our crops, spread diseases, or damage our buildings. Basic stuff." The snake creature reared up. "You are talking about intelligent beings." "I guess some of them were pretty smart," Jake admitted, "but they were still getting in the way. The bug-like things on New Dallas kept eating our wheat. The furry ones on Terra Verde wouldn't stop digging holes under our foundations. And those bird people on Hope's Landing kept stealing shiny things from our construction sites." More gasps echoed through the chamber. Jake wondered why everyone seemed so upset. This was normal colony work. "So we called in the pest control teams," Jake continued. "Same thing we do on Earth. You find what's causing problems, figure out how to get rid of it, then clean up the mess." A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed bright red. "By pest control you mean murder?" Jake looked confused. "Murder? No, just pest control. We use different methods depending on what we're dealing with. Poison for the small stuff, traps for the medium ones, and hunting parties for the big problems." "Hunting parties?" Chairman Vextar was now glowing so bright Jake had to squint. "Sure, some of those species were pretty tough. The rock people on Titan's Garden took months to clear out. They kept hiding in caves and attacking our miners. We had to use explosives to collapse their tunnels." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Creatures were standing up, waving arms, tentacles, and other body parts Jake couldn't identify. The translation devices were having trouble keeping up with all the shouting. Chairman Vextar slammed something that might have been a hand on his podium. The sound was like a church bell. Everyone became quiet again. "Ambassador Morrison, Chairman," Vextar said slowly, "you are describing the systematic extermination of entire species." Jake tilted his head. "I guess you could call it that. We just call it clearing the land. It's what humans do. We find a place we want to live, we make it. Safe for us to live there, pretty basic stuff. Basic? The snake creature was practically vibrating with anger. You speak of genocide as if it were routine maintenance. Well, it kind of is, Jake said. I mean, we've been doing it for thousands of years on Earth. Wolves, bears, bugs, diseases. Anything that made life hard for humans, we got rid of it. Made the whole planet safe for us. The chamber fell completely silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. You did this to your own world? Whispered a small, furry creature. Oh yeah, Jake said proudly. Earth used to be full of dangerous animals and diseases. Now it's perfect for humans. We learned a lot from that experience. Made it much easier to handle the colony worlds. Chairman Vextar seemed to shrink. His diamond body dimmed. And you see nothing wrong with this? Jake looked genuinely puzzled. Wrong with what? Making places safe for humans to live? That's just common sense. What about the rights of other species to exist? Look, Jake said, I'm not trying to be mean here. But if something is going to hurt humans or make our lives harder, we have to deal with it. That's just how things work. You protect your own people first. The room stayed quiet for a long time. Jake sat back down and finally picked up his glass of water. His throat was getting dry from all the talking. This session is postponed, Chairman Vextar announced. We need time to discuss what we have learned. As the aliens began filing out of the chamber, Jake heard them whispering to each other. He caught words like monsters and nightmare and dangerous. He wondered what they were so worried about. Jake packed up his notes and headed for the door. Tomorrow he was supposed to bring some specialists to explain how human colonies actually worked. Dr. Carter and Commander Hayes were excited to show off their methods. Maybe once the council understood how efficient human colony work was, they would be more impressed. Jake was sure they just needed better explanations. Dr. Lisa Carter smiled as she walked into the council chambers carrying a heavy briefcase. Behind her came Commander Rick Hayes, a tall man in a neat uniform with medals on his chest. The third human was Dan Brooks, who wore a simple business suit and carried a tablet computer. Jake Morrison met them at the door. How was the trip? He asked. Great, Dr. Carter said. I brought all my best samples and videos. This is going to be fun. The three specialists took seats next to Jake at the small table. The alien council members filled their huge seats again, but today they looked nervous. Many were whispering to each other. Chairman Vextar stood up. His diamond body was dimmer than yesterday. Human specialists, we asked you here to explain your colony procedures. We want to understand exactly what you do. Dr. Carter opened her briefcase and pulled out several glass containers. Each one held something that looked like colored liquid. These are my favorites, she said happily. Each one is designed for a different type of problem species. She held up a red container. This one worked great on New Dallas. The bug people there were eating all the human crops. One dose of this in their water supply, and the whole problem was solved in 3 days. A gasping sound came from the council seats. The snake creature from yesterday was staring at the container. You poisoned their water supply? The snake asked. Well, yeah, Dr. Carter said. That was the most efficient way to reach all of them at once, much faster than trying to catch them one by one. She picked up a blue container. This one was special. I made it just for the furry diggers on Terra Verde. See, they lived underground, so regular poison wouldn't work. This stuff turns into gas when it hits air. We pumped it into their tunnel systems. Commander Hayes nodded approvingly. That was good work, Lisa. Saved us weeks of digging them out by hand. What happened to them? Whispered a small, bird-like creature. Oh, they all died, Dr. Carter said cheerfully. That was the point. Dead pests can't cause more problems. Chairman Vexitar was now glowing very dimly. And you feel proud of this work? Of course, Dr. Carter said. I have a PhD in biology from Earth's best university. Creating targeted solutions for pest problems is what I trained for. Each world has different species, so I have to make different solutions. It's like solving puzzles. Commander Hayes stood up and activated a small device. Pictures appeared in the air above their table. My job is the big picture stuff, he said. When Dr. Carter's solutions don't work, Or when we need to clear large areas fast, that's when I come in. The pictures showed spaceships firing bright beams down at planets. Explosions bloomed on the surface like deadly flowers. These are orbital strikes, Commander Hayes explained. When pest species live in big groups or hard-to-reach places, sometimes you have to use heavy weapons, much more efficient than sending soldiers down. One picture showed a mountain being blown apart. Another showed a forest burning. That mountain was full of the rock people Jake mentioned yesterday, Commander Hayes said. They kept attacking, our miners, so we cracked the whole mountain open. Problem solved. You destroyed an entire mountain? The floating jellyfish creature was pulsing angry colors. Had to, Commander Hayes said. Those rock people had tunnels everywhere. If we missed, even a few, they would have bred back up to full numbers in a couple years. Better to be thorough the first time. Dan Brooks finally spoke up. He touched his tablet and numbers appeared in the air. Let me show you why these methods work so well, he said. Charts and graphs filled the space above their table. This is a cost comparison between pest elimination and what some people call coexistence protocols. He pointed to a red bar on one chart. This shows the cost of completely eliminating problem species on a new world. Initial expense is high, but then it drops to zero. He pointed to a blue line that kept going up. This shows the cost of trying to live alongside native species. Food losses, building repairs, medical costs, security expenses. It never stops growing. Over 10 years, elimination is 60% cheaper, Dan said proudly. Plus, human colonists are much happier when they don't have to worry about dangerous animals or crop thieves. A creature that looked like a walking tree raised several branch-like arms. But surely the native species have rights to their own worlds? Dan looked puzzled. Rights? They're just animals. Do rats have rights to live in your house? Do bugs have rights to eat your food? Some of these species built cities, the tree creature said. They had art, music, families. So do some earth animals, Dr. Carter said. Bees build hives, birds sing songs, wolves have packs. Still doesn't mean we let them destroy human crops or hurt human children. Commander Hayes nodded. The way I see it, humans worked hard to get to these worlds. We spent years building spaceships, training colonists, sending supplies. Why should we let some local animals ruin all that work? Because they were there first, Chairman Vextar said quietly. Jake shrugged. So were dinosaurs on Earth. Didn't stop us from taking over when we got the chance. The chamber fell silent. Many of the alien council members were staring at the humans with what looked like horror. Let me show you some success stories, Dr. Carter said, trying to break the uncomfortable silence. She activated her own device and new pictures appeared. The images showed beautiful human cities under clear skies. Clean farms stretched to the horizon. Happy human families played in parks. New Dallas is now home to 2 million humans, Dr. Carter said. Terra Verde has the best agriculture in the Outer Rim. Hope's Landing produces more manufactured goods than any other colony world. And not a single pest problem on any of them, Commander Hayes added. That's what proper clearing gets you. Dan Brooks smiled at his tablet. Production efficiency on cleared worlds is 42% higher than on worlds where humans tried to coexist with native species. You see, Jake said to the council, this is why human colonies are so successful. We don't waste time or resources trying to work around problems. We solve them permanently. The three specialists began packing up their equipment. Dr. Carter carefully put her poison containers back in the briefcase. Commander Hayes turned off his display device. Dan Brooks closed his tablet. Any questions? Jake asked the council. No one answered. The alien creatures just stared at the humans in silence. Well, if you think of any later, just let us know, Jake said. We're always happy to share our methods with friends. As the four humans walked out of the chamber, they could hear whispers starting behind them. The whispers grew louder and more urgent, but the humans didn't look back. They had done their job. Now it was up to the council to decide if they wanted to learn from human expertise or keep doing things the slow, inefficient way. Admiral Zexkar stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the biggest fleet in galactic history move through space. 500 warships from 50 different worlds flew in perfect formation. Each ship carried the most advanced weapons their species could build. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 more human colonies." "Ignore them," Admiral Zexkar ordered. "We go straight to Earth. Cut off the head of the snake." 3 days had passed since the Council's emergency session. After hearing the human specialists explain their methods, the Council had voted unanimously. Humanity was too dangerous to exist. They had to be stopped before they killed every other species in the galaxy. The plan was simple: surround Earth with overwhelming force, demand complete surrender, then supervise the dismantling of human civilization. Any humans who refused would be eliminated. It was harsh but necessary. "How long until we reach the Sol system?" Admiral Zexkar asked. 6 hours, sir." Admiral Zexkar nodded. His own species had fought wars for thousands of years, but they had never faced anything like humans. Other species fought for territory, resources, or honor. Humans fought to eliminate their enemies completely. On Earth, General Kate Miller sat in a deep underground bunker reading reports from her intelligence teams. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and cold. "The Council fleet is bigger than we expected," Colonel Tim Anderson said. He was studying a holographic display showing the approaching ships. "Numbers don't matter," General Miller said calmly. "They're still thinking like civilized beings. We're not." Admiral Paul Johnson laughed from his seat at the conference table. "I almost feel sorry for them. They have no idea what they're walking into." The 3 military leaders had been planning for this moment since Earth's first contact with alien species. While diplomats like Jake Morrison had been making friends, the military had been preparing for war. "Status report," General Miller ordered. Colonel Anderson activated the display. "All orbital platforms are armed and ready. The asteroid belt mining stations have completed their conversion to weapons platforms. Luna Base reports all missile silos are loaded." "What about the outer system?" Admiral Johnson asked. "Jupiter's moons are ready. The Saturn ring stations are in position. Even the Pluto outpost is armed with long-range missiles." General Miller smiled. "And our special surprise?" "The Mars project is complete," Colonel Anderson said. "All civilians have been moved to the underground cities. The surface is ready for activation." Admiral Johnson checked his watch. "The Council fleet should be hitting our sensor nets right about now." In space, Admiral Zexkar's fleet slowed as they reached the edge of the Sol system. His sensors immediately began picking up human activity. "Sir, we're detecting mining operations in the asteroid belt," his sensor officer reported. "Looks like standard civilian activity." "Any military ships?" "A few patrol boats near Earth and Mars. Nothing that could threaten us." Admiral Zexkar nodded. Just as intelligence had predicted. Humans had expanded fast, but they had focused on colonies, not military buildup. Their home system was practically defenseless. "All ships, battle formation," he ordered. "We'll surround their homeworld and demand surrender." The massive fleet began moving deeper into the solar system. They passed Neptune without incident. Uranus was quiet. Saturn's rings looked normal. Then they reached Jupiter. "Sir," the sensor officer said, his voice rising, "I'm picking up massive energy signatures from Jupiter's moons." "What kind of signatures?" Before the officer could answer, space around the Council fleet lit up with missile trails. Hundreds of projectiles launched from hidden bases on Jupiter's moons, racing toward the alien ships. "Evasive maneuvers!" Admiral Zexkar shouted. But the missiles were different from anything the Council had seen before. They moved faster than should be possible and changed direction without warning. Worse, they seemed to know exactly where each ship was going to be. The first missiles hit the fleet's outer edge. Council ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Then more missiles arrived, from Saturn's rings, then from bases hidden throughout the asteroid belt. "How many weapons platforms do they have?" Admiral Zexkar demanded. "Sir, I think the entire solar system is a weapon." On Earth, General Miller watched the battle on her command screens. "Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. Colonel Anderson pressed a button. Across the solar system, objects that had looked like space stations, mining ships, and research platforms suddenly revealed their true nature. Hidden weapon systems unfolded. Civilian ships dropped fake outer hulls to reveal military vessels. Underneath, the Council fleet found itself surrounded by enemies they had never seen coming. "Sir, we're outnumbered 10-1, Admiral Zexkar's tactical officer reported. "These aren't patrol boats. These are full military warships. Where did they all come from?" "They were hiding, sir, disguised as civilian vessels." Admiral Zexkar realized he had made a terrible mistake. The humans hadn't been building colonies. They had been building a trap. "All ships, emergency retreat. To Mars orbit," he ordered. "We'll regroup and attack from there." But as the Council fleet moved toward Mars, the red planet began to change. The surface cracked open in dozens of places. Massive gun barrels emerged from underground bunkers. Mars itself was a giant fortress. "Incoming transmission from the human fleet," the communications officer announced. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was a middle-aged man in a military uniform with captain's stripes. "This is Captain Steve Bennett of the Terran Defense Force," the human said. "You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Admiral Zexkar tried to keep his voice steady. "We are the Galactic Council fleet. We demand you cease this attack and negotiate." Captain Bennett's face showed no emotion. "There will be no negotiation. You came here to destroy us. Now you will surrender or die. You have 60 seconds to decide." "We have 500 ships," Admiral Zexkar said. "You cannot destroy us all." "Watch us," Captain Bennett replied. The human ships began firing. But they weren't trying to disable the Council vessels. Every shot was aimed to kill. When Council ships lost their shields, the humans didn't demand surrender. They destroyed them completely. Admiral Zexkar watched in horror as his fleet died around him. These humans fought like nothing he had ever seen. They showed no mercy, took no prisoners, offered no quarter. "Sir, we've lost half the fleet," his tactical officer reported. "Should we surrender?" Admiral Zexkar looked at the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in perfect formation, methodically destroying his vessels one by one. They weren't angry or excited. They were just doing a job. "Send surrender signal to all ships," he ordered. "Tell them to run for home. Tell the Council that humanity is not like other species." As the surviving Council ships fled the Sol system, Captain Bennett opened communications again. "Tell your Council," he said calmly, "that Earth is now off limits. Any ship that enters this system will be destroyed without warning. Any world that supports action against humanity will be visited by our pest control specialists." The transmission ended. The human ships returned to their hiding places among the asteroids and moons. Within an hour, the Sol system looked peaceful again. In her bunker, General Miller turned off the command screens. "Send a message to our colony worlds," she said. "Tell them the Council problem has been handled. Resume normal expansion operations." "What about the surviving Council ships?" Colonel Anderson asked. General Miller smiled coldly. "Let them go home and tell everyone what they learned. Fear is a useful tool." Admiral Johnson stood up and stretched. "Think they'll try again?" "No," General Miller said. "They're not stupid. They'll realize they can't win." She walked toward the exit. "Besides, we have expansion schedules to keep. 37 new worlds are ready for pest control operations. No point in letting the Council distractions slow down our real work." Colonel Amy Foster stood in front of a huge wall screen showing the remains of the Council fleet. Broken ships drifted through space like dead insects. Some were still burning. Others had been cut completely in half by human weapons. 37 ships destroyed in the first hour, she reported to the assembled officers. 215 ships destroyed in the second hour. The remaining vessels are retreating at maximum speed. General Miller nodded from her command chair. "Casualties. On our side? 0 deaths, ma'am. 3 minor injuries from equipment malfunctions. No ships lost." The human officers in the bunker looked satisfied but not surprised. This was exactly what they had planned for. "Sir," a young lieutenant said, "the surviving Council ships are sending distress calls to their home worlds. Should we block their communications?" "No," General Miller said. "Let them talk. Fear spreads faster than truth. On the bridge of his damaged flagship, Admiral Zexkar tried to understand what had happened. His species had been fighting wars for 10,000 years. He had studied every major battle in galactic history. Nothing had prepared him for this. "How many human ships did we destroy?" he asked his tactical officer. "None, sir. We damaged a few, but they all withdrew for repairs and returned to battle." "How is that possible?" "We had superior numbers and firepower." The tactical officer looked at his readings again. "Sir, I think we misunderstood something basic about human warfare." Admiral Zexkar turned to face him. "Explain." "We fight to control territory or capture resources. Humans fight to eliminate enemies. When we disable a ship, we try to capture it. When they disable a ship, they destroy it completely. That's barbaric, maybe, sir, but it's also very effective." Back on Earth, Colonel Foster activated a new display showing human military doctrine. Charts and graphs filled the screen. "The Council fleet made several critical errors," she explained to her staff. "First, they assumed we would fight like civilized species. Second, they thought our goal was to defend Earth." "What was our real goal?" asked a captain. "Complete victory," Colonel Foster said simply. "We don't fight to survive. We fight to win so completely that the enemy can never threaten us again." She pointed to a chart showing battle statistics. "In the past 50 years, humans have fought 17 different conflicts on Earth and our colony worlds. In every single case, we achieved total victory. The enemy was either completely destroyed or surrendered unconditionally." "How is our approach different from other species?" asked another officer. Colonel Foster switched to a new display. "Other species fight wars to gain something specific: territory, resources, political control. When they get what they want, they stop fighting." She highlighted human battle records. "Humans fight wars to solve problems permanently. We don't stop until the problem can never happen again." "Give us an example," General Miller said. "The Martian Independence War 15 years ago," Colonel Foster replied. "A group of colonists declared independence and started attacking supply ships. Other species would have negotiated or fought until the rebels agreed to stop. What did we do? We eliminated the rebel leadership, arrested everyone who supported them, and relocated the entire population of Mars to re-education facilities on Earth. Then we brought in completely new colonists. No possibility of future rebellion." The officers nodded. This was standard human procedure. "The Council fleet expected us to fight for our homeworld," Colonel Foster continued. "But Earth was never in danger. This entire system is a military base disguised as a civilian settlement." She activated a new display showing the true layout of the Sol system. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had hidden weapons. What looked like cities were actually fortress complexes. Mining operations were really military manufacturing centers. "How long have we been building this?" asked a major. "Since first contact with alien species," General Miller answered. "The moment we learned other species existed, we began preparing for war with them. Even before we knew they might be hostile. Especially then," General Miller said. "Unknown. Species are potential threats. Humans don't wait for threats to become real before dealing with them." A communication alert sounded. The main screen switched to show Captain Steve Bennett on his flagship. "General, we're receiving surrender requests from 19 different council member worlds," he reported. "They're offering tribute payments and military cooperation." "Ignore them for now," General Miller ordered. "Let fear do its work first." "What about the Council's remaining military forces?" "Track them, but don't engage unless they enter human territory. We want survivors to spread the word about what happens when you threaten humanity." Captain Bennett nodded and ended the transmission. General Miller turned back to her staff. "This brings us to the next phase of human expansion," she said. "Colonel Foster, explain the new protocols." Colonel Foster activated another display. With the Council military defeated, 43 worlds are now available for human colonization. All of them currently have native populations. "Pest control operations?" asked a captain. "Standard procedure," Colonel Foster confirmed. "Dr. Carter's teams are already preparing biological solutions for each world." Commander Hayes has orbital strike packages ready for resistant populations. Timeline: 18 months to clear all 43 worlds, another 6 months to establish human colonies. Total time to complete expansion, 2 years. General Miller stood up. The Council thought they could intimidate us into stopping our expansion. Instead, they've given us access to their entire territory. She walked to the main display and pointed at a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked current human worlds. Blue dots showed Council territory. Every blue dot will be red within 5 years, she said, not through conquest, but through proper pest control and colonization. What if other species try to form a new alliance against us? Asked the Major. Let them try, General Miller said. They'll learn the same lesson the Council just learned. Humans don't just win wars. We eliminate the possibility of future wars. Colonel Foster switched to a final display showing human military capabilities. The numbers were staggering. Hidden fleets, secret weapons, technologies the Council had never suspected. How did we build all this without anyone noticing? Asked the captain. Because we're very good at looking harmless, General Miller replied. Diplomats like Jake Morrison make friends and ask innocent questions. Scientists like Dr. Carter study alien biology for research purposes. Engineers like Commander Hayes build civilian infrastructure. And military officers like us? We stay hidden and prepare for the day when the mask comes off. General Miller looked around the room at her officers. That day has arrived. The galaxy now knows what humans are really capable of. The question is, what will they do with that knowledge? Run and hide, suggested the lieutenant. Smart ones will, General Miller agreed. The stupid ones will try to fight us. Either way, human expansion continues. She headed for the exit. I want full reports on all Council worlds within 24 hours. Population counts, military capabilities, resource values. Start with the ones that have the most useful species. Useful for what, ma'am? Labor, mostly. Some species are too dangerous to keep alive, but others might be worth preserving if they can contribute to human goals. And the ones that aren't useful? General Miller paused at the door. Standard pest control procedures apply. The room fell quiet as she left. The officers looked at each other, then back at the displays showing the defeated Council fleet. The galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about what happened when you threatened humanity. Some species would be smart enough to surrender quickly. Others would resist and be eliminated. Either way, humans would get what they had always wanted: a galaxy safe for human expansion, with no pests to cause problems. Dr. Susan White stepped off the transport ship onto the Council capital world. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Behind her walked 2 bodyguards in simple black uniforms. They carried no visible weapons. The Council chambers looked different now. Most of the seats were empty. Only 30 species had representatives present, down from the original 200. The rest had either fled to distant parts of the galaxy or simply stopped responding to communications. Chairman Vextar was still there, but his crystal body was dim and cracked. He looked like he had aged 100 years in the past month. Dr. White, he said quietly, welcome to what remains of the Galactic Council. Susan smiled warmly. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I know recent events have been difficult for everyone. She took a seat at the same small table where Jake Morrison had sat weeks earlier. But now the situation was completely reversed. The humans were in charge, and the aliens were afraid. Before we begin, Susan said, I want you to know that Earth values the contributions many species have made to galactic civilization. We have no desire to eliminate useful populations. A small bird-like creature in the front row raised a wing. What do you consider useful? Susan opened a tablet and consulted her notes. Species that can contribute to human goals through labor, resource extraction, manufacturing, or other services. We've prepared individual assessments for each world. She activated a display that filled the air above the table. Lists of species. Names appeared, each marked with green, yellow, or red colors. Green species will be preserved and integrated into human-managed territories, Susan explained. Yellow species will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Red species will be processed according to standard pest control protocols. Chairman Vextar stared at the display in horror. Processed? Eliminated, Susan said simply. Species marked in red have been determined to be incompatible with human expansion goals. The snake creature from the earlier meetings was marked in red. So were the rock people, the bird thieves, and dozens of other species. On what basis do you make these determinations? Asked a floating jellyfish creature. Its name was marked in yellow. Several factors, Susan replied. Aggression levels, resource competition, territory requirements, and cooperation potential. We've also considered each species' history of interaction with human colonies. She pointed to the jellyfish creature's entry. Your species, for example, shows promise. You're intelligent, non-aggressive, and your technology could be useful for underwater operations. You're marked for preservation pending a cooperation agreement. And if we refuse to cooperate? Susan's smile never changed. Then your status would be reconsidered. A tree-like being in the back row stood up. This is monstrous. You're deciding the fate of entire civilizations based on your convenience. We're managing galactic resources efficiently, Susan corrected. For too long, this galaxy has been plagued by conflicts between competing species. Humans are simply providing the order and stability everyone needs. By committing genocide on a galactic scale? By eliminating inefficiencies, Susan said calmly. Consider the benefits. No more wars between species. No more resource conflicts. No more territorial disputes. All problems solved permanently. Chairman Vextar dimmed further. And humans would rule over everything? Humans would manage everything, Susan said. There's a difference. We're not interested in ruling subjects. We prefer eliminating problems. She switched to a new display showing human expansion plans. Red lines spread out from Earth like blood vessels, reaching toward every corner of the galaxy. Within 10 years, human colonies will be established on 300 worlds. Within 20 years, we'll have a presence in every major star system. Within 50 years, the galaxy will be properly organized under human management. What happens to the Council? Asked the jellyfish creature. The Council will continue to exist, Susan said, but with a new purpose. Instead of trying to manage conflicts between species, you'll help coordinate cooperation with human goals. She pulled up another display showing organizational charts. Each preserved species will have representatives responsible for ensuring their people contribute effectively to human projects. Think of it as a management structure rather than a government. The bird creature raised its wing again. And species that don't want to be managed will be reclassified as pests, Susan said matter-of-factly. Dr. Carter has developed very efficient solutions for uncooperative populations. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. I know. This is a big change, Susan continued. But consider the alternative. The old system was chaotic and wasteful. Species fought constantly, resources were squandered, and technological progress was slow. She activated a new display showing productivity projections. Under human management, galactic productivity will increase by 400%. Scientific advancement will accelerate dramatically. And most importantly, conflicts will become impossible, because you'll have killed everyone who might cause conflicts, Chairman Vextar said bitterly. Because we'll have solved the root causes of conflict, Susan corrected. Humans learned this lesson on Earth thousands of years ago. The most efficient solution to any problem is to eliminate it completely. A small furry creature near the front spoke up. What if we agreed to move to different parts of the galaxy? Away from human territories? Susan shook her head. That would just create future problems. Isolated populations tend to develop resentments and plan revenge. Much better to handle everything now while we have the opportunity. She stood up and began packing her tablet. I'll need your answers within 72 hours. Species that agree to cooperation protocols will receive detailed instructions for integration. Those that refuse will be scheduled for processing. And if we try to run? Asked the snake creature. We'll find you, Susan said simply. Human expansion ships are already tracking refugee populations. Running just delays the inevitable and wastes everyone's time. Chairman Vextar struggled to his feet. Is there nothing we can do to change your minds? Susan paused at the door and looked back at him with genuine sympathy. You could try to prove your usefulness. Humans appreciate species that contribute to our goals. The galaxy has room for useful populations. And useless ones? Are pests, Susan finished. And humans are very good at pest control. She walked out of the chamber, followed by her silent bodyguards. Behind her, the remaining council members began arguing in frightened whispers. Some wanted to surrender immediately and hope for mercy. Others talked about fighting to the end. A few suggested trying to hide in the far reaches of space, but they all knew the truth. Humanity had won completely. The galaxy now belonged to humans, and every other species existed only as long as humans found them useful. Outside the council building, Susan looked up at the alien sky. Soon, human ships would arrive to begin processing this world. The useful species would be relocated to human-managed territories. The rest would be eliminated. It was just another step in humanity's expansion across the galaxy, clean, efficient, and permanent. Her communication device beeped. A message from Earth. 47 new worlds ready for colonization. Pest control teams standing by. Susan smiled and typed back. Excellent. Begin standard procedures. The galaxy is finally becoming safe for humans. Above her, the first human ships appeared in the sky like falling stars. The real work was just beginning. Within a generation, children across the galaxy would grow up in a universe where humans were the only species that mattered. All the others would be either useful tools or distant memories. And humanity would continue expanding world by world, system by system, until every corner of the galaxy was properly managed and pest-free, just the way it should be.